The FBI has now launched a task force in a response to rising reports of violent vandalism at Tesla dealerships amid protests against Elon Musk and his efforts with Doge to slash federal jobs and budgets. President Trump saying he thinks these attacks are coordinated. It is important to note not all of the protests have been violent. In fact, most are peaceful, with tens of thousands expected to hold Tesla takedown rallies in cities across the world this weekend. Meantime, Tesla stock has had some gains after Minnesota governor and former vice presidential candidate Tim Walz mocked the stock's massive fall in price. And MAGA supporters are now buying Teslas to support the company that earned the #1 spot on the Cars.com American-Made Index. So senior correspondent Brian Entin is live for us in Oregon, where one of those violent attacks took place. So, Brian, what more are you learning?
Yeah, it's interesting, Nichole. I don't think a lot of people realize that the graphic you just showed, that Tesla is the #1 most American-made car. We came here to Portland, Oregon, which is sort of the epicenter of the Tesla hate, to sort of get a sense of what's going on. We went to a protest here. Also really looked into the man responsible, according to the feds, for 2 of the most violent Tesla attacks.
Tesla attacks around the country. Among the worst in Salem, Oregon. A man dressed in all black, first seen throwing Molotov cocktails at the Tesla dealership, and returning a month later, shooting up the building with an AK-47. A neighbor gave me this video when the SWAT team showed up to arrest 41-year-old Adam Lansky. Neighbors say he cleaned and spray-painted guns outside his apartment and has a young son. We obtained this photo of Lansky wearing a blonde wig at a Pride event. The banner behind him says, "Queer Firearms Training." On the table, there are pistol targets, gun locks, ear protection, magazines, and ammo cases. I spoke to the person who took the photo.
I did notice that they had a gun belt on.
Yeah, I noticed that in your photo.
Yeah. I definitely think they were strapped.
And even more bizarre, we're told Lansky was giving out these stickers that say, "Together we can do powerful things." A gun surrounded by cartoon animals. Lansky worked at the First Congregational Church of Christ in downtown Portland. The pastor would not do an interview, referencing an ongoing criminal investigation and personnel matter. So how organized are the Tesla attacks? This online post on an anti-capitalist, anti-authoritarian news site is titled, "Don't Use Molotovs, Some Notes on Safely Burning Teslas." It gives specific instructions on more explosive methods. The Trump administration has called it domestic terrorism. Do you think that's too extreme a label? What do you think?
No, I think it's pretty accurate. They use code words and things when they're speaking, and it's made to inflame people.
A protest we went to outside the Portland Tesla dealership was timid.
We are not associated with anyone who is doing any kind of violence. They are not welcome here. That is not our mission.
But we did find some not exactly condemning the vandalism that we've seen across the country.
Destruction of property is a perfectly viable source of protest. No harming humans, obviously. Yeah. Human life is sacred no matter whose it is. But property these are just things. These are just cars.
And when she says property, these are just things, these are just cars, it's interesting, talking to Tesla owners who saved up a lot of money, Nichole, to buy that car. Many of them consider themselves liberal. They don't even necessarily like Donald Trump, but they like the car, and it bothers them to hear people say that they're just cars when they, spent their hard-earned money on them. As for Adam Lansky, the suspect who I was talking about in my piece, his case went before a federal grand jury, and we found out yesterday he's now also facing arson charges. Nichole?
All right, so Brian, we've seen all of these protests, some of them violent, many of them peaceful, as we did say at the top. But what are we expecting for Saturday's Tesla takedown, which is being labeled a global day of action?
Yeah, it seems that it's quite organized, that there's going to be protests all across the country. And you made a good point. I mean, most of these protests, and the one that I went to here, there's 400 or 500 people. All of them, for the most part, were peaceful. It seems like these fringe groups where people are violent and going and literally shooting up dealerships are organized separately through sort of online channels. So hopefully things will stay peaceful this weekend. The protests, again, planned all over the country and all over the world, Nichole.
Entin live for us there in Oregon. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.